All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to the America United FC podcast. My name is Jim. That is Will over there. And welcome to what we thought was going to be finally, well, not really finally, but for the first time a podcast not really focusing on U.S. soccer. Oh boy, things have happened.
It's gotten spicy.
It's gotten a little spicy. Indeed. And I guess we can kind of start off with the spice. So this whole thing started. If we can go on the timeline.
Yeah.
On the timeline, Gregg Berhalter gave a speech. Gave a speech at a summit for the Howe Institute for Society. Ever heard of it, Will?
I have not heard of that until now.
Until now. The Howe Institute for Society was doing a
Is it
summit
Howe,
on
H-O-W or like H-O-W?
HOW. Yes.
Okay.
So if you want to know about them, they had a summit for moral leadership. That's their whole thing is moral leadership. And I guess they just host talks, and they host conferences where they bring in people who talk about moral leadership, the four pillars of moral leadership according to the Howe Institute.
And I guess their first 895,000 options weren't available, or what?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they brought in Gregg Berhalter. Should we discuss their four pillars?
Yeah.
Let purpose lead, inspire and elevate others, be animated by values and virtues, and stick with the same formation no matter what. No, that's the last one is build moral muscle.
Trust the system.
So they have all these weird things and podcasts and media, whatever, about being a moral leader. That's like their whole thing. So they brought in Gregg Berhalter to speak at this conference, and didn't go too well. So basically, from what it sounds like, Gregg Berhalter thought, this talk was going to be off the record,
Yeah.
This talk was going to be off the record, and it wasn't going to get reported. It did get the transcript did get recorded, and was released by a company called Charterworks. I'm not exactly sure how I don't know how any of this happened, obviously, but basically in this speech, in this talk, which Greg thought would be a Triple Gesus, thought was going to be completely confidential. Gregg Berhalter talks about a player who was not playing well, who was not working hard. And he said, as a staff, we sat together for hours deliberating what we were going to do with this player. We were ready to book a plane ticket home. That's how extreme it was. And then
I wonder what was I wonder if the crowd of this, what the audience that he was talking to, how much would they know about soccer? Did he?
I don't know.
I wonder if he brought this up thinking just they would have no idea who he's talking about. Because I guess from my standpoint, right, he didn't name the player.
Yeah.
But for anybody that's remotely follows U.S. soccer, and even if they didn't even follow before the World Cup, just following during the World Cup, it's not that hard to know that it's Gio Reyna, right?
Yeah. So
it seems pretty common sense.
So. I feel like it's like a bunch of middle industry schmucks, bosses or managers of companies, and their company sends like just very sterile corporate whatever. This all seems like a very sterile corporate whatever conference, to be honest. Like not that I'm, not that I've ever been like a manager or a boss in corporate America, but from the people who I know who work that job, they kind of send you to these things, where you go to these conferences about leadership and they tell you about the 4 pillars, and they bring in the keynote speaker who, is a, middle of the road soccer coach. So basically, there's this whole thing. Fans kind of put 2 and 2 together and were like, this is definitely Gio Reyna he was talking about. The Athletic later on after that released a story about basically confirming that this player was Gio Reyna. The Athletic is about as trusted as a source as you can get. After that happened, obviously Twitter and the internet's kind of caught a light. And people were like finding quotes of like DeAndre Yedlin said something about how players got on the culture, and like the players that didn't kind of get with the culture, well, they're not going to last that long, and they're not going to
Right.
and people were like, he's talking about Gio. And then there was a video of like the fans getting back to the hotel after beating Iran, and like Gio Reyna just kind of has his headphones in.
Didn't look remotely happy. Yeah.
And then there was a story that was released that said that the players voted to whether or not to keep Gio Reyna on the team, and it was a 13-12 vote to keep him, which I literally just seen it was the second episode of Squid Game on Saturday. I watched it for the first time, so I was like, this is just like the vote in Squid Game where it's down to the last guy.
It's a great analogy, yeah.
And it's it's Aaron Long. It's all up to Aaron Long. What is Aaron Long? Is Aaron Long going to send Gio Reyna home? What does Shaq Moore have to say on the issue?
That's why Gregg brought them, just to be the deciding vote.
Could you imagine if Gio is standing there and they have
That's what when I first read that, that's what I was wondering too. I was like, was Gio in the room, or did they be I just can't imagine how that could organically happen. Where Gio, go to the other room. We're gonna
have a vote.
Go to the other room and come back in 5 minutes. Or
and then it's just people voting and then you see Serginho Dest has voted for Gio to leave, and he's just watching oh, fuck you. So then after that, Taylor Twellman basically said it wasn't the player vote. Now I don't know if we can confirm or deny this.
Yeah.
I don't know how trusted. I don't know where Taylor Twellman's getting these reports from. Yeah, but he said
you
it was
see why some people close to U.S. Soccer would be trying to take damage control here.
Yeah, but what he said though was that it wasn't a vote from the players. Yeah. It was a vote from Gregg Berhalter and his staff. So apparently the physios, the trainers, got a vote on whether or not to keep Gio Reyna, which is
dumber.
It's pretty much just as stupid.
I looked at his calf scan yesterday, and it's just it's just not looking up to par.
Yeah, he's a Libra. I don't trust him. I don't know.
Also, if you look at Berhalter's staff, I mean, it seems as if there's twice the amount of staff that there is even the players.
Yeah.
If you look in any of the locker room videos, there seems to be 40 staff to 26 players. So
the physio. The physio is stretching out Gio Reyna. He's just so you know, if it was up to me, I would have sent you home. Just pulls it a bit too far back. Now you're
right.
Now your tendon's pulled. Or whatever it is. I forget. So then pretty wild turn of events. That was around. I feel like the hysteria for me ended around midnight Eastern time of what else is coming out? What else is coming out? What's Taylor Twellman gonna tweet now? And then this morning, Gio Reyna broke his silence after I think his agent, the Athletic asked his agent, and his agent, you know, his agent said he wasn't going to comment. Now he did comment. Basically, and in the statement, Gio Reyna said three things. And this was, I believe, this was 8 hours ago now that we were filming this, which is Monday late afternoon, evening in America. Basically, he said three things. The first thing that he said, the first thing I guess we could mention, beyond all this, is that even what Gregg said, and I think his whole point in his speech was that they handled it. Gio apologized. The players stood up and were like, "Hey man, we're not happy with how you're performing, and things are better." So Gio also kind of mentions that. But the three main things, first of all, he said that I think were interesting. First, he said, that he thought this whole thing was going to remain private, and now it's been made public. So I gotta say something. The second thing that he said was that I guess apparently before the World Cup, according to Gio, Gregg Berhalter said that Gio Reyna was going to have a very limited role in the tournament, and we can get onto that later. And the third thing that he also mentions is that he's disappointed in what he calls fictionalized versions of events. So that's where we are. Will, what are your initial takeaways of this entire debacle that we have going on here?
Yeah, I think obviously the initial takeaway is, okay, I'm happy that we got some sort of explanation, but it's pretty messy. And I can understand both sides, and I can understand both mindsets, right? Mm-hmm. If for Gio, he has every reason to be upset, and we're going, by chronological order from the get-go of you're going to have a very limited role in the World Cup, which for Gio, who I think he knows, he seems like a confident guy, and it's not that hard for fans to see. He's one of our most talented players. As I think I said in our last video, he's our best passer, he's our best finisher, and he's a top 5 dribbler on our team. Does he have all the attributes that Berhalter likes in either a winger and midfielder on the team? No, he probably doesn't. But a good coach looks at the players they have and the talent they have and makes it work in that sense. So, first of all, that's surprising to hear, from the get-go, you're going to have a very limited role for that reason. But for the second reason, and what's more frustrating to me, is that to predetermine before the tournament starts who's getting how much play time is a really silly thing to do. And I think when you look at other teams in the World Cup, teams that are doing well, I think the first example that pops to my head, right, is Argentina. They're in the semifinal. For sure. They're a much deeper team than we are, more talented team than we are. But Lautaro Martinez started out as a starter for them because he's an excellent player. He's been really good with Inter Milan. But he lost his starting spot because he wasn't performing well, and Julian Alvarez is performing better. And I guess what I don't understand, right, is if Gio comes on in that last 10 minutes against England and he scores a goal, even, God forbid, right, he scores 2 goals, what does that do? Is Gregg Berhalter is the mindset still, well, he has a limited role, we're not going to keep playing him? That doesn't make any sense, right? If a guy's hot, you keep playing him. So I can understand every reason why Gio would be frustrated about the situation, just based on his talent, and also it seems like poor management of players. With that being said, I think what was really good about this team, and it was very apparent that everybody was really focused on the goal, right? That was the narrative the whole time. We heard it from Weston McKennie especially. Just like every guy on this team knows their role and is all part of the process, and we all have the same thing in mind. And it was kind of apparent that Gio wasn't on the same page, maybe, right? Not only that video of him kind of sulking when everybody else was celebrating, but even I think the moments he did get on the pitch, um, he definitely his quality showed at times, but he definitely was a lot slower than other people, right? It didn't feel like he was necessarily sprinting around as much, going in aggressive tackles like the rest of the team does. So it was kind of apparent that the whole team is trying to play one way and he's trying to play his own way. And I'm not saying one way is right or wrong, but I can see how maybe he wasn't as focused on the goal, and obviously that can be very frustrating for your teammates and for the coaching staff if you have one player who thinks they're above the whatever the goal and the system and the mindset of the team. So yeah, but at the end of the day, right? I don't know why the heck Gregg Berhalter is talking about this to anybody, even if he thinks it's a private a group. That's especially if they're not associated with soccer at all. It just doesn't make any sense. And in this day and age, I don't know how anybody in the public eye would not be worried about things getting leaked, right? It happens all the time, and you have to realize more. And what this comes off as, I think at the end of the day, and I don't think this was the intention of Berhalter, but it comes off as like the 50-year-old coach picking a fight with our 20-year-old young player, and that's not a good look for Gregg Berhalter. And I think Gio's response was really mature. I thought his Instagram post, what he said, was really mature, and he pretty much hit everything in a really good way. So yeah, I do think that the fans, probably because of how we felt already before about Berhalter and Gio Reyna, is I think Gio Reyna is going to come out with a much more positive view than Gregg Berhalter comes out of this.
Yeah, I think my big takeaway. I mean, first of all, I think I'm not interested. I don't think any of us here are interested in commenting on the the attitude and of a 20-year-old, whether or not a 20-year-old Gio Reyna is a good person.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think I can kind of understand, and at this point in time, I can understand, first and foremost, my first thoughts were I can understand, especially in a World Cup tournament, especially, in situations like this where I think you kind of need the players to be on the same page. I think more in a setting like this than maybe in a league setting, where there's 38 games, whatever it may be. You kind of want people to have, you kind of want people to be pressing. You want people to be trapping back. You want people to be sprinting. You want people to be going all out.
Right.
I can understand why if the players were as mad at him as it sounds like they were, that he would not get playing time. But also, it sounds like this whole thing stemmed from the two things that I think are paramount now is one, why in the world is Gregg Berhalter telling Gio Reyna he has a limited role?
Yeah.
Why are you telling a 20-year-old kid, I think probably 19 at the time, he's going to be playing just turning 20, he's going to be playing a limited role at the World
Cup. The second biggest club in Germany. I
mean, that's one thing. Of course, there was, it sounds like Gregg Berhalter was saying, oh, we just told him he wasn't starting. Gio saying he was just not going to have a big. It was, who knows how it was communicated.
Yeah.
But if you're telling someone that they're not going to be playing a big role, again, form happens. Also, injuries happen.
Right.
What happens if Tim Weah gets injured? What happens if Tim Weah and Brendan Aronson gets injured? Does he still have a limited role? Are you going to play?
It's fine.
Yeah, you're just going to play and Jordan Morris. And yeah, and I think the other big thing, I just don't see now how Gregg Berhalter I thought he needed to go before. I think he definitely needs to go now.
Yeah.
Not only because like I don't think he's that incredible of a coach, and I think even if he was a decent coach, you probably want a new guy. But now we can't have, at the very least, a top 5 best player on the team has the potential to be the greatest U.S. national team player of all time. You just cannot go into the next World Cup cycle. Sounds like Copa America cycle too, with a coach and a player who probably have like irreconcilable differences at this point.
Yeah.
You just can't. You just can't have that. No. But we can maybe get into that later.
For sure. Yeah. And I guess we've seen it before, with John Brooks, right? They had some sort of disagreement, and that's it. John Brooks never played for the national team again.
Yeah.
And I think that happens. And I mean, Hakim Ziyech is leading Morocco to the semifinal. Literally, 7-8 months ago, he wasn't even playing with the national team because him and the coach didn't get along with each other. So no, for sure, it's I mean, you can't just get transferred because you don't get along with the manager.
Yeah, so. And I think that just gets even more into like how important just kind of being in the national team game, in the international game, just how important like pragmatism I think is. Yeah. As a coach, like you need to be, you need to be someone who like looks at the situation with like and same thing with Morocco. Like I think one of the reasons Morocco has gone so far is because the coach is like, hey, okay, we have good defensive solidity, we have really fast wingers, we have really fast, really talented fullbacks. Right. Let's just sit back and play on the counterattack because that's what we got. Yeah. And that's what we can do. And look at where they are, And I mean,
but I don't know. I guess to your point, though, what you said is I don't know how does Berhalter come back from this? I think the other thing that crossed my mind and that Gio touched on is something along the lines of, I don't think it's exact words, something along the lines of you expect what happens in the locker room within the team to stay within the team. And as we said, we don't know where the players' hearts are at all. It's possible that Gio was that big of a pain that the players are fully with Gregg on this. Yeah. But they might not. I don't really know. Yeah. But you can definitely see now how that would players would lose all sort of trust in Berhalter. I mean, right? It's if what he's preaching about this brotherhood, this sense of one team, one nation, whatever, one goal, only forward. But anyways, if that's the focus, and all of a sudden you have a coach who's going out on the How podcast talking to corporate managers about locker room problems. Yeah, I don't know how you can win the locker room back unless, like I said, unless it was that bad where the players are like, Gio is that big of a problem in the team. Yeah. And just the proximity, the World Cup is still going on. He couldn't have possibly scheduled this talk until after the World Cup was over for him, because you would have at least thought that he still believed he could still be there, And then, I don't know what the timeline of scheduling was, but
yeah. But I don't know. Maybe they were moving the whole thing. Gregg's still determined. We need to reschedule. Rebook your flights, everyone. He just walks into the Metropolitan Pavilion or whatever, Javits Center, whatever stupid freaking conference room. He is with a bunch of Goldman Sachs and Citibank managers, and is not even when the World Cup is over. He's like, well, we had one player who was really messing up, and then I solved the problem. Who cares?
Yeah, it feels. Yeah, it does. It feels. Yeah. It feels like a very high school coach type of.
Yeah, a high school. Yeah, high school
kid coach who wasn't getting good grades, who was just flashing out.
Yeah, high school coach at the Christmas party vibes.
Yeah. Right. Right. But yeah, no. This is. Even. like this is huge. This is big news in world football, right? And it reflects poorly on us. I don't know how much other people are paying attention, but I do know Fabrizio Romano commented on it. So
yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of those things that I think because it's Gio Reyna, like, I mean, I think because it's not an international superstar, it's not going to get like the huge press, but still, I think it's an interesting story.
I'm sure in Germany, it's probably getting some good news.
Yeah,
I mean, but
yeah. There's also reports that like there are similar problems happening with him at Dortmund. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
Along those lines, so I mean, who knows how true it is?
It seems. I mean, I don't know. It seems unlike. I mean, I guess at least at Dortmund, whenever he's healthy, he plays a lot. So he's not. If there's problems with training, I think he's not getting back for it. I don't know. I guess the real question though, Jim, is how does this affect Gregg Berhalter and all the European clubs that are interested in him?
I don't know. I think the real question is, what pair of Nike sneakers was he wearing when he I go fancy conference Nike Kill Shot 2s, navy blue. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. How does this affect his European? I don't know. We'll see. I think
all the teams that he's weighing his options.
He's weighing his options. Will it be Real Madrid? Will it be AC Milan?
I mean, I would take an Ancelotti Berhalter swap.
An Ancelotti Berhalter swap. Where's Carpano vermouth distilled? Probably somewhere in the north of Italy. So you could do a Milan or a you could do a Milan or a Torino.
Actually, though, I'm like very, very genuinely interested because obviously I'm sure there's no European teams that are interested in him. Yeah. But I really wonder like what the level is that's interested in him because it's hard to right. I mean he was he was the coach of a team with a bunch of players in the Premier League, Bundesliga, Serie A. We went to the World Cup, so in that sense, like. He
had his moments.
Pretty good on the resume, but then also
he's definitely
beyond that is not very good. So yeah, I'm very curious what level of teams would actually be interested in him. Yeah,
we shall see, and I think we should get to that later. Before this podcast gets too deep, I think we should still talk about the World Cup. We can talk about it briefly, momentarily. It's been a World Cup of penalties. It's been a World Cup of penalties.
Bad penalties.
Bad penalties. A lot of bad.
I think the penalties, and generally speaking, have been very poor.
They have a lot of saves.
Yeah, a lot of saves, right? And
a lot of saves,
shootouts, but in the game too. There's been a decent amount of saves and misses.
Yeah, Harry Kane had a howler.
Poor lad.
I gotta mention. So I was at work. When that game was happening, when the England game was happening, I was at work, and it's like the Harry Kane, and I had a TV on the end of the store, and I had the game on, and some guy had called in, like looking for like this beer, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's in the back, I'll get it for you. I forgot to get it for him. Anyway, he walks in. And is like, hey, can you get me that beer that I requested right as the Harry Kane penalty? And I was like, yeah, let me. And I'm like, what? I'm like, Harry Kane takes a million freaking years before a penalty. First of all,
takes time.
So I'm trying to watch it, and then like the guy's staring at me like not doing my job, not getting the beer for him. So like. And eventually, he was looking at me so much, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go. So I went in the back, missed the penalty. I could have gone right when he asked me for it because Harry Kane took so long. But yeah, skied it. Too bad. Yeah, I think the other thing, as I mentioned, watching Morocco play has been the highlight of the tournament for me.
Absolutely.
Again, pragmatism.
The fans particularly are just
the fans have been awesome. I love their national anthem. I hate it. Like I think obviously, people are, and you can go on like Vox or whatever, one of those, sites that people call fake news, and read all about how, like, national anthems are kind of like a Western construct that like enforced in other nations. And I think because of that reason, like, other countries think that, like, their national anthem, a lot of other countries' national anthem is kind of like this Western style
Yeah.
song, like classical music.
Yeah.
So I love it when national anthems are not. Morocco's is pretty sick. I love Japan's as well. Like, Japan's national anthem is like kind of creepy, but it's like this very interesting thing. But yeah, like, Morocco's national anthem is awesome. Their fans are awesome. I think they could genuinely win the World Cup if they just, I mean, like, all they need to do is just not allow goals, which they're really good at doing.
They haven't done yet, besides.
And then
goal, right?
either score, something on the counterattack. Doesn't need to be pretty. Hasn't been thus far for a whole lot. Or win in a penalty shootout, which they're pretty good at. So
yeah,
their goalie's pretty good. He had that kind of like Emi Martinez moment against Spain. I forget who it was, where he was just kind of talking shit and then saved the penalty. I love it when goalies do that. But yeah.
It's great when they do that and then they come up with a save. They
it's so awesome.
Such fools when that doesn't come off. But
yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely rooting for Morocco. I think. Also, just for the whole Arab world. I don't know. Like.
Yeah, I think it's pretty sick. Other than that, I mean,
it's cool too. I really enjoyed seeing the images of the Moroccans, like celebrate in New York. Like, in Queens and that, like, the video in Times Square. It's such good passion. This sport, and
I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible to watch. I mean, it kind of does prove, obviously, like, Croatia are very close to getting back to the final again.
Mm-hmm.
It could very easily be the France-Croatia final, part 2.
Absolutely.
Hopefully not. I mean, I don't know about hopefully not, but I'd like to see some variety.
Yeah.
Or I'd at least like to see France not win again. They're the only team I'm really not rooting for.
Yeah.
I don't want to win. It's France.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think Croatia proves that, as you were kind of saying earlier, just like all you really need is good tactics.
Yeah.
And a good game plan. And
good tactics. And then, Croatia has their good midfield. They can kind of control the game. That's going to be interesting.
Croatia is impossible to beat. It's amazing. I mean, the fact that I think it says a lot about just, like, I think the mental strength of the Croatian team.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they just never give up. They're always, the purpose is always the same, right? To give up that incredible Neymar goal in extra time, and then just keep playing their game and get the goal like that was just very, very cool to see. And
it was very cool.
It's no fluke. I don't think it's any fluke that Croatia's in their second straight World Cup semifinal. They are genuinely that good.
Yeah, and I would imagine if you can do it, now they know they can do it again. I think that game against Argentina is going to be very interesting, because you just have an Argentina team who came off quite the match, another penalty shootout, but it got very spicy. What were your thoughts on that? What were your thoughts? I was ready for
a full out brawl.
Yeah. It was awesome.
I thought when who was it? Enzo Fernandez kicked it in the bench, and then Van Dijk decked the guy. Like, I thought that was going to really escalate a lot more than it actually ended up.
I'm surprised. I mean, I thought there could have been a red card. I don't know. Like, the kick into the stands is one thing that might be yellow. Van Dijk just, like, tackling someone. Very purposely, very purposefully.
Yeah.
I was honestly very surprised.
I also I praised the Netherlands and their tactics a lot in the game against the US. Mm-hmm. I thought that how how they played right the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes when they needed the score, and they just
Mhm.
brought on tall guys. Like
Yeah.
they should have done that all game, because Argentinians are not very big people, right?
Very tall.
Christian Romero is what I mean. He's tall, but he's still tiny compared to Veghorst and Luke De Jong and
Yeah.
Lautaro Martinez as the other center back. I mean, the Netherlands were so dominant that last 10 minutes of regular time, just putting the ball up in the air in the box. And I really
Yeah.
think if they'd done that all game, I think they absolutely would have won that game. So I thought
Yeah.
the Netherlands kind of got their. It seems like a really silly thing to pick your lineup based on height, but that was such a giant
Yeah.
advantage for them, and it really worked. I mean,
A very giant advantage indeed. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Argentina, they had really they had nothing that they could do the last 10 minutes, and when
Yeah.
they were just putting the ball in the air. I mean, they were completely helpless. So yeah, but that was a really fun game, and I can't really remember ever watching a soccer game where the entire team, like I said, it was just the last 10 minutes, but where like the entire like attacking game plan is just like be taller than the other team.
Yeah.
I found that pretty fascinating, and it was cool to watch. And obviously, Netherlands scoring that brilliant set piece right at the end, and was really. I mean, that was like absolutely beautiful, just cheeky. Nobody expects that, and like the confidence to have that like trick set piece in such a crucial moment was awesome, and I feel like that had Louis van Gaal like written all over it.
Yeah. It's pretty epic.
Pretty
It was
epic.
pretty epic.
Yeah.
The fights.
I was like, damn, if Messi loses and gets knocked out of the World Cup this way, like that's so sad. But
Yeah.
so
But we had a wonderful, a wonderful, a wonderful knockout. Penalty shootout. Emi Martinez, hero again. I love that guy also. He's just such an asshole in such a wonderful way. And then the fights after the game, too.
yeah.
I mean, they must have really, like, the Netherlands must, I wonder what they did. I mean, I don't know. Apparently, Messi was mentioning
something like Van Gaal was saying, we're going to win now, it's going to penalties, something like that.
Yeah. He must have said something. I mean, I'm also for, this theory that Louis Van Gaal is a little bit racist too. He seems like that type of a guy who may have said something really offensive towards the Argentinians.
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Obviously, he has past drama with Angel Di Maria.
Yeah.
He didn't really like Angel Di Maria. I don't know. That's just what people.
The Netherlands assistant coach, Edgar Davids, the guy with the sunglasses.
Oh my god!
I just love seeing him and Messi jawing at the end. Like, that was just Messi. Just,
two legends of the game just having a full out argument.
I love I don't know if this is true, but I love the idea of them just yelling in Dutch at Messi, and then Messi just yelling at them in Spanish, and like nobody have any idea what they're saying, but just like
I bet they could probably speak English. I'm not sure. Yeah, who knows?
I'm sure. I mean, you never really hear Messi speak English. I'm sure he knows enough to insult.
Yeah,
but you never really hear Messi speaking English. So I don't know.
Yeah, that you never really do. I mean, he might be able to pick up on some. People are, I think, known to like pick up on languages. I'm not sure, but he's never.
I just think never referees, right? Every Champions League game Messi's played, the referee's been in English, so I've got to imagine he knows enough. But anyways, I don't know. It was all very entertaining, and I'm happy that Argentina did not lose that game. That would have been very tough on Messi, but
it would have. I'm. There's still a big part of me that just really wants Messi to win a World Cup. For sure. I think that's like the cool thing, obviously, about this tournament is that like you need to shatter a bunch of dreams to get to a champion.
Right.
A lot of shattered dreams. Yeah. And obviously, I'm sure Morocco would be more than happy with their worth their performance, even if they do lose to France, but and potentially even get third place. But they're definitely looking. I mean,
I mean, once
it's
you're at
gonna
this
be.
point, you got to have the full confidence that you can
Yeah,
win.
you gotta. What are your predictions for this round of semifinals, which I believe are starting tomorrow?
I mean, I don't know. I really don't want it to
Mm.
be as. I think it. My prediction is France Croatia,
Mm. Yeah,
but
I I I
I want it to be the other way around. I think I want
I
it to go
me
Argentina
too.
Morocco.
That's kind of like the pragmatic part of me. I think, as I said, I mean, I think Morocco can win. And I think I might even have a bit more confidence in Morocco beating France than Argentina beating Croatia.
Really,
I might. I
you're
just
pretty high on
might. 'Cause
Morocco. Yeah, I don't
I,
know.
I mean, I don't know. I think they're just so good in defense. I feel like Argentina are just a bit too shaky.
Yeah,
Like, they're I feel like you can never have full confidence in them.
they haven't been convincing
Um,
at all. Yeah,
yeah, or at
yeah.
least I can't. Like they've just been eking out results. Um,
I don't know. Yeah, I think France are the best team in the world. I really do.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I thought I was sure Morocco were going to lose to Spain. I mean, I wasn't sure Morocco. Actually, that's not true. I thought Morocco had a pretty good chance against Spain. They won. I thought Morocco had a decent chance against Portugal, but thought at the end of the day they were going to lose against Portugal.
yeah,
They won, and actually scored like a goal from open play. Um, and yeah, I mean, France are definitely an upgrade over over
yeah.
over those two teams. But again, I think it
I think
just
it's
gets
good. Yeah, yeah.
I yeah,
But,
I think it just gets back down to the fact that like I don't think Morocco getting a clean sheet in 90 minutes or even 120 minutes against France is that unlikely. I think they're just so good and they're so compact
yeah,
um, that like they can do it.
yeah,
I think the chance that Morocco just have a good penalty shootout or just score a goal, based off of like a really good counterattack is also very possible.
yeah.
I'm not saying I think it's going to happen, or like I would bet on it, but I don't know. I just think Croatia.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Croatia also just have that solidity, that stability, that maybe Argentina don't have. Like we saw them; they pretty much had the game won against the Netherlands, and almost blew it.
I think
They didn't.
even against Australia. I mean, they were
Yeah, they didn't.
Australia.
They.
Australia came close to getting a tying goal a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they weren't phenomenal like against Australia. Like, nothing against Australia, but like you kind of think they can put that one to bed. Like the best Australian player is like what Matty Ryan, the goalkeeper who plays for Copenhagen, or like Aaron Moy who plays for Celtic. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think for me, the Croatia Argentina. I think I pick Croatia. I think they're a really mentally strong team, and
Mhm.
that's not a knock on Argentina necessarily, but I think you can see the pressure that Argentina feels, and
Yeah.
the pressure that obviously the pressure Messi feels. I think he's been playing really well, so it hasn't
Mhm.
necessarily showed that much, but I'm sure he's incredible pressure to win this World Cup, and I think there's pressure amongst
Yeah.
the entire team to win Messi that World Cup, and
Yeah.
it's a not across the board, but it's a decently young team, and I think that they
Mhm.
go down a goal. I don't see them coming back necessarily. Whereas with Croatia, I think that they have this. First of all, they're not expected to win the World Cup, so there's that pressure is not there. Also, they've just
Yeah.
been here before, and like I said, they find a way to win games all the time, and
Mhm.
it never feels like they're out of the game. And I like if they go down a goal against Argentina, I like their chances to come back. If Argentina goes down, I think it's going to be a lot harder for them to come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say with the as far as the France Morocco game, I think France is the best team in the world. I think they're gonna find a way to win. As good as Morocco's been defensively, I don't think this clean sheet record is gonna last with the likes of Kylian Mbappe, who's the best player in the tournament, and Olivier Giroud, who's one of the best finishers in the world still currently.
Yeah.
I find they're two players that need not a lot of chances to score, right? They convert on a high amount of their opportunities. I think France's weakness, and kind of what we saw in the England game, is Upamecano. I've never quite got the hype around him. He makes a lot of mistakes. So I think there is things that Morocco can exploit if they can get on the counter and run at the back line of France. But I just don't see how. I just don't see them keeping France out of the back of the net with the attack that they have. But
and they have Griezmann too, who's had a very good tournament.
Good,
yeah. Who really turns it up for France.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing about Argentina is I feel like there's kind of like this, not even like a pressure of like, there's like an expectation that like you need to win one, and like this kind of ghost of Maradona, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it's just a very unhealthy, kind of complex the Argentinian fans and players have kind of put themselves in.
I mean, look at the stadiums, right? They look like home Argentina games.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot, obviously, about the passion of the country for their national team, but also I think it says a lot about the expectation, right? Yeah. I don't think people they wouldn't have enough people traveling the World Cup to fill out a 90,000 seat stadium and make it feel like it's in Buenos Aires if the expectation wasn't that they were here to win the World Cup.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think also like there's kind of this there seems to be like this thing around like Diego Maradona that like just it's almost like Messi, you will not be like thought of in the same way if you do not win a World Cup.
Sure.
Like,
which I think is
like not almost like a please for us, more of like a you better, like you better.
Yeah.
Like you owe us one. Like we deserve like you deserve like we deserve for you to bring us a World Cup in a way. That seems, and that might be a complete. I mean, I don't know if me broadcasting that thought is like the smartest thing in the world, but that's just what it seems like from a very outsider perspective.
Yeah.
I
understand.
I'm sure
but also, I think the pushback what I would have is when it's obviously a lot of pressure, but it's also part of the privilege of being in that conversation, of being one of the greatest players ever. And when you're in that conversation with Maradona and Pele, I think Cristiano Ronaldo is in that conversation too. But when you're talking about these great players and who's the greatest of all time, and it's really impossible to differentiate, on the pitch, right? How the heck do you say Diego Maradona or Lionel Messi or Pele is better? It's impossible.
Yeah.
Different eras, different teams, and it's impossible. So I think it is reasonable that the natural instinct would be, well, who's won more trophies, right? Maradona's been able to win the World Cup, Pele's been able to win the World Cup, Messi hasn't, and I think that is a fair way to measure. So, obviously that's a lot of pressure on Messi, but it's also it's part of the privilege that comes along with being in that conversation.
Yeah, and what I will say though, I think no matter what happens in this World Cup, I do feel like Messi and Ronaldo will just go down way more for what they've done for their club teams. Than what Pele or Maradona ever did. No matter even though if you do go to Naples, like
he's God,
the entire city is like a shrine to Maradona.
Yeah.
So over there it's very special. But
just to add to this, I definitely It's obviously, yes, this feels like this is the year that Messi needs to win the World Cup. I'm not comfortable saying Messi doesn't play in the World Cup in 4 years. Like,
Yeah, I think he could.
I think it's very possible. I mean, I think he's been the second best player of the tournament. I think Mbappe's been the first. I think Messi's been the second best player in the entire World Cup. He's been one of the best, if not the best player in Europe this year.
Yeah.
um,
He's been incredible.
He's only 35, right? It's
Yeah.
it's not unfathomable that he could be on the Argentinian World Cup roster in 2019. I know it's in the U.S., but just being in the Americas, maybe that's an extra motivation for him to keep playing with the national team, and especially if you don't win this year. And look, they have some really good young players that I think, as heartbreaking it is for Messi to not win this World Cup, I am not comfortable saying this is his last opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I will be rooting for him. As much as I like Croatia, I like that team. I still want to see Argentina kind of come out with it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see. That will all be determined in the future
I'd be pretty
of
sweet
when
to
we
have
record.
a South America Africa final.
That would be pretty sick. Those Europeans can screw it. They can screw it. But yeah, it's been an interesting World Cup. I think there's a reporter for The Athletic, Carl Anka, had said, I think he kind of said it best when he said this is a World Cup of great drama, but maybe not a World Cup of great quality. The fact that these games have been just so insane. But it's been a lot of just craziness. There's been some wonderful moments of skill and beautiful goals, but a lot of draws, a lot of 0-0 draws, a lot of 1-1 draws.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been interesting.
Yep.
It's been interesting.
It's entertaining.
Yeah.
Don't want it to end.
I do not.
Then we gotta wait 4 years.
Yeah, we gotta wait another 4 years. Getting back to the hosts of the World Cup. One of the hosts of the World Cup in 4 years is going to be the United States. Obviously, I want to get back to that. Some interesting things, I guess, that we should kind of pedal on back to the United States. First thing, it seems like it's about a sure thing that not only will the U.S. participate in the 2024 Copa America alongside Canada and Mexico, but that they will also be the hosts. Ecuador was originally going to be the hosts. They pulled out. Essentially, they're saying they're not ready. None of this is confirmed. I think one of the higher-ups at U.S. Soccer said, essentially hold your horses, which is something my dad used to say. But yeah, that would be an interesting thing. That would be an exciting thing, and that would be if we do decide to extend Gregg. If he performs badly in that tournament, then we could fire him. Although I don't want that to happen. I hope we get a new manager, and I hope we do well in the Copa America. But yeah, that's exciting. Are you excited, Will? Should we go to a 2024 Copa America game?
Should we go physically?
Yeah, should we go?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's go.
I mean, the 2016 Copa America was some of the best soccer experiences of my life.
Yeah, that was a great time.
We didn't go to a U.S. game, but just the...
Yeah, if we went to a U.S. game, we could make it happen. But now with our jobs and such and time off whenever we feel like it, we don't need to stick to a schedule.
Yeah, but
we can just go.
Anyways, yeah.
Even if it's in Houston.
I mean, I would love if it's in the U.S. I'll go to as many games as possible. Just watch our U.S. men's national team, but also because I love the energy that South American fans bring.
Yeah,
I think it's just a really unique. Yeah. It's a really unique sporting experience, and obviously I've never actually been to South America, but I got getting the little introduction to it, sitting with all the Chilean fans in the Chile game was definitely a highlight of my sports fan career. Absolutely.
Pretty epic. The one thing I will say, because I am a bit of a downer in some ways, is I hope, as much as I'm happy to see this Copa America being hosted in the U.S., and as much as I hope like the Copa America becomes like a full American tournament, because I don't give a crap about. I love CONCACAF, and I think maybe later on in the podcast we can talk about some of the more quirky things when the World Cup is going forward, like what's going to replace the now defunct but absolutely wonderful CONCACAF League. Complete tangent. As much as I want to see the U.S. in Mexico, and I'm literally staring at a map above me, so that's why I'm looking up. That's why I'm doing this, because like if you could see where my hand is pointing, it's hovering over the Americas.
Yeah.
As much as I would like to see a full American Copa America, I do have a fear that the powers that be are going to get a bit too comfortable with hosting these tournaments in America. As happy as I am to have this opportunity to see another Copa America in the U.S., because I just think like they're going to host it in Ecuador. Ecuador pulled out. Lord knows why they pulled out, but they pulled out, I think, only a month ago. As a result of that, like CONMEBOL is going to make way more money hosting the tournament in America than they would in Ecuador.
For sure.
I hope they don't, like, that just doesn't become a regular thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it would be, but it just seems like the Gold Cup isn't like, they would never be like, all right, and the host of this year's Gold Cup is St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Like,
yeah.
So it's just in America every year.
I guess, as easily as we can pull it off, I think also like Argentina and Brazil could also easily just like pull it off in a heartbeat. But I definitely understand that. I thought what you were going to say, and something that I had thought of with this is it brought me back a little bit to like the Super League, right? The European Super League, in the sense of, I heard, okay, so Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. are going to join Copa America. Mm-hmm. My first thought was, well, that's not really fair to Costa Rica, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how does Canada deserve to be there, not Costa Rica? Costa Rica's consistently been in the World Cup. They went to the quarterfinals not too long ago. They had a better showing in this World Cup than Canada did, I would say. And so that definitely feels like very probably financially motivated if Canada's in it and Costa Rica's not. So that was something for me that I worry if the Gold Cup becomes less important because we start consistently U.S., Mexico, Canada playing in Copa America. That could harm, I think, the football infrastructure in Honduras and Costa Rica and Panama. All these other countries that I would like to, as soccer grows in America and Canada, I would like us to not leave these Central American countries, behind, but rather kind of bring them up with us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's very true. Again, if you like, kind of going forward with that, like watching again, if you ever like, you guys, you need to watch like matches from the CONCACAF League, which is ending, but like it basically the CONCACAF League was this tournament that was essentially just every club, like essentially like a Champions League for like every club that wasn't in the MLS or in Liga MX.
Yeah.
So like the final was consistently like Costa Rican clubs, Honduran clubs, Nicaraguan clubs, Caribbean clubs, like in the knockouts and in the finals. And you'd have, I think I think the last one was like Olympia versus Alajuelense, which was like the two biggest clubs in Honduras and in Costa Rica respectively. And the atmosphere was so epic. That's
Better than the
Definitely true.
NYCFC Sounders CONCACAF Champions League semifinal game.
It was quite a bit better. And that was another interesting thing. The CONCACAF Champions League, NYCFC couldn't play in their stadium, because like just randomly scheduling a game during the Yankee season sometimes doesn't work out. So they had to play in my home city, which had, and they were playing. I forget exactly what team they're playing. Guatemalan team. So
Hartford, for reference, your home city.
yes, yeah. Hartford, Connecticut, and there's a lot of Guatemalans in Hartford, Connecticut. I was about to say like, oh, where am I from? You won't know, but it was basically a home game for the Guatemalans because the stadium was like 90% Guatemalan fans, 10% New York Red Bull fans or NYCFC fans. That's epic. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting tournament. I think it seems like like the excuse being used this time, and which is I think a valid excuse, and obviously is something I'm concerned about, and a lot of U.S. fans are concerned about, and I imagine like a lot of Mexican fans and maybe to somewhat of extent Canadian fans, which is that like, hey, we're not going to get any qualifiers. That's kind of like the only thing that we do competitively. We need something. I would kind of, if we're gonna like continue to like intrude on the Copa America, which is a tournament that like regularly does invite guests. They had, I think, Japan in their last one.
Yeah.
They've had Qatar. Qatar was in like they were in the Gold Cup. They were doing everything. Like, to get themselves ready.
Didn't work.
Yeah, it did not work. I would like to see that, like, if we're gonna us in that tournament, but I do think if us North Americans are going to like, kind of break our way into the South American tournament, I would like to see maybe a bit of a qualifier, so it's not just like the powers that beat every time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah,
and maybe it's
the more international, the more games we can get for the U.S. national team that are better.
And then if we don't qualify for the Copa America, then like, hey,
that'd be a little awkward.
What are we doing
in the U.S. and we don't qualify?
Yeah. Well, maybe if we were the host country, like, and if we could occasionally be a host country, like Mexico could host once in a while, Canada could host once in a while, but I think it would be a real tragedy if it was just, if we kind of took the tournament away from them in a way, which we've already done now. I mean, the Copa America Centenario was like a very clear, like, cash grab kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, let's do a Copa America the year after we just had one. But it was still awesome, and it still clearly mattered, like, to the players.
Yeah. At the same
time,
it's a tough line because also, at the same time, like, we're never going to be able to get to the level that we should be at in U.S. soccer if, like, the best team we play in competitive matches outside the World Cup is Mexico. So,
yeah, that's true. And I want to get to a couple other things because we had to talk a bit more about Gregg, a bit more about managers, and then we have that story is bad. So, getting over to Gregg, as we mentioned, not that neither of us don't like Gregg, but I think we just like to see him not be the manager. But in the beginning, that's not how things were being framed. It kind of went into like this story got out of like Gregg Berhalter is, I think it started out with like USMNT is looking at the option of extending Gregg Berhalter. Like they're gonna like it's like on the US, like the US are the ones that are gonna be trying, not like Gregg is gonna be like begging them to please extend me.
Well,
and then the story came out. Gregg Berhalter is looking at European options, and we have not still we have
the second division in Moldova is hiring.
Yeah, but like, not to say that he wouldn't get it. As you mentioned earlier, there might be some teams I could be looking, but we have not seen the name of a single team yet. We got the name of a player who was acting out in the tournament. we got that information. We could get that confidential information, but we cannot get the information of a team that is in it for Gregg Berhalter. But what I want to do is I want to think about who we would like to move on from if it's not Gregg Berhalter, if he does get his dream move to Real Madrid, or maybe there's another team in the Champions League that could do with getting knocked out in the round of 16.
Yeah. I'm sure it's the same Champions League teams that are looking at Ronaldo. I'm probably looking at Gregg Berhalter.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, I think it could be interesting, because we don't know when all this is going to happen. But I wanted both of us to think of 3 manager choices. Yeah. One of them is the Dream, one of the biggest names in the world. Someone, we like to think, again, we have like these names of like Pep Guardiola. Like if we're seriously looking at Pep Guardiola, Gregg Berhalter shouldn't be anywhere near that list.
Yeah.
I don't know. But one dream pick, so one of the biggest, your Pep Guardiola types. One practical pick, someone who's qualified, might not break the internet, but is definitely someone who would make most people happy. Be someone that would be, someone with a strong resume. And then one wild card, so this is someone who maybe doesn't have the resume, maybe even someone that would piss off a whole bunch of U.S. fans should he be hired, but is someone that you think is worthy of the job, or at least worthy of consideration. So, Will, who is your dream manager?
Ricky Warren.
Ricky Warren. That's getting personal.
Anyways, all right, dream Jurgen Klopp for sure. I would rather Klopp than Guardiola. I think that because I think the good thing that Berhalter's been really good at is like building community in the team and like building it. Maybe all that's been shattered now with the Gio stuff, but it's seen before. Like really good locker room vibes, for lack of a better word. Just camaraderie, sense of purpose, and I think Klopp seems to do the same thing. Really good man management, but I also just think that his style of play fits our player as well. His wingers are really successful. They play a lot in transition. They're very direct, and I think that would fit just kind of the players that we have. So yeah, I think Jurgen Klopp is definitely my dream, and I think he'll definitely be available before the World. I don't think he's not going to coach Liverpool until the World Cup. So
yeah,
but
I think I think Sean Johnson still is still on Berhalter's side.
Sure, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't think Jurgen Klopp takes Jordan Morris. So, but anyways, all right. One practical.
Yeah.
I mean, this is tough because I don't know, but I guess Marcelo Bielsa is the first name that, but I do think that probably would break the internet. But I guess it's I'm going to put it in the practical.
Not in the way he's not in a
I'm going to put it in the practical category because like he did get fired from his last job because they were.
I was even considering like an Unai Emery, at like the verge of like a dream to practical kind of a place.
But and I don't know. I guess it's hard. The practical one is hard to pick because
I think the
Unai
practical one,
or Marcelo Bielsa is our practical one. I mean, and you look at the past, look at our past managers: Gregg Berhalter, Jurgen Klinsmann, Bob Bradley. It's a big step up. But all right, so my practical one is probably Marcelo Bielsa. I also like the idea of Roberto Martinez, who's now available. Obviously, he didn't win with Belgium, but they were quite the force attacking for a good while, and I think he could do well in the role. One wild card for me, it's Steve Cherundolo. I liked how LAFC played. Even though they had really good players, they weren't like obsessed with possession soccer, which is, I mean, to me that's kind of belief is you don't need to possess the ball that much to win games.
Mhm.
Obviously, winning MLS Cup in his first year is really impressive. He had a great team.
Mhm.
That's still really impressive. He was in in the Bundesliga for a long time as a player and as a coach. He seems really well respected in Germany, and he's
Mhm.
a former player. He seems to be just kind of well liked by a lot of people, and just
Mhm.
So yeah, I think Steve Cherundolo is my wild card. Who just I guess he has a good resume, but I guess he falls in that category. He's only been an MLS coach for 1 year, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So, for me, my big criteria were for choosing this for any coach was I mean, we need to be good in like knockout scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be like excel in knockout scenarios. Number two, as you're mentioning, like creating good team cohesion. I think is really important. And then three, kind of like practicality and management style, not overly idealistic in style. So for those two, for like the first and the third reason, I'm actually not super sold on the idea of Pep Guardiola. I mean,
Yeah.
I
No, it's hard
think
to yeah,
it would,
it's for somebody that's so like system oriented, it's very hard to
yeah,
it's hard to
it might,
imagine him as an international manager.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is. It could work. I mean, it's probably better than what we've got now, but you
Yeah, I
know,
think he'd do a better
um,
job than pretty much anybody.
yeah,
Like I think he'd
yeah,
figure it out, but
I think he would. But so with that being said, I was definitely thinking about Jurgen Klopp. I was between two people for my dream. Since you said Jurgen Klopp, I think he would be like my number one. But I'm gonna go with Zinedine Zidane, just because he kind of fits all those kind of criteria.
yeah.
I think the one concern I would have about him is that he's only really coached on Real Madrid. Um, I mean, I don't know how good our players are going to be by 2026, but I can't imagine them be quite at that level. Um, but I think he's really good in the Champions League. That's where he shined. Um, and just kind of let people do their thing. Um, Number two, I kind of searched a while for number two for my practical pick. Um, and I am kind of saying this as like a practical pick, kind of assuming that now with like our status and like our level of player, I think we probably have the ability to reach a bit higher than we used to. Um, so with that being said, I think my practical pick is Marcelo Gallardo. You know who Marcelo Gallardo is? Well,
I don't think I did.
he is the coach at River Plate. So he's been the coach at River Plate for quite a while now.
Yeah.
He's 46 years old. He played for DC United. He was actually, I think, one of DC United's first designated players back in 2008. But he's won a whole bunch of trophies with River Plate. He's won the Copa Libertadores twice. He's won the Argentinian Cup a few times. So again, he's kind of young, dynamic, fills out that kind of knockout tournament ability. Just left River Plate, so is kind of looking for a new thing.
Yeah.
So this would probably be the time for us to snap him up.
I liked it.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. And then my wild card is someone who fits all three criteria. Actually, this is kind of the pick I'm most secure in, and that's Brian Schmetzer. I think Brian Schmetzer, pretty solid coach defensively. He has very much excelled again in MLS playoffs.
Yep.
And then now in the CONCACAF Champions League. He seems like an incredibly easygoing guy to coach under. He seems like a guy who does not have like a shred of ego in the world, would not pick a fight with Gio Reyna. And yeah, I think he would be a guy that would like be really good, solid defense. I think you kind of mentioned it with the Sounders, what he did. Even like in this bad season, he got a trophy out of it for the Sounders, and he got a knockout cup trophy. Mm-hmm. I think he'd do an incredibly good job. He seems like just a coach that does an incredibly good job at like creating an energy and an atmosphere around knockout cups, around like these kind of situations that like the Copa America and the World Cup would be like. And I think you kind of mentioned this. Things kind of have gotten stale as of late, but he has had an incredible 6 years.
He
Um,
currently, I don't blame him for this year. This year
yeah,
it was a bad roster.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this is actually something that you kind of said in your like analysis of him was that he's really good defensively. He creates a team with a solid defense, and then he kind of just lets the attackers do
He's a very
their thing.
Schmetzer. He very a lot of tactics, very like strong organization and purpose off the ball, and then on the ball, it's just a lot of freedom, which is I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been pretty again. And then I think he's pretty like formationally fluid. Like he doesn't really focus too much on that. So yeah, I think he would be. I'm not. I think it would piss a lot of people off if he was hired.
It would piss a lot of U.S. soccer fans off. Yeah.
I think it would piss a lot of U.S. soccer fans off. I mean, I think there is a certain set of fan that would be angry with anyone who is not like a dream pick. I think you need to kind of ignore those people. The other rule I had when picking this was no Jesse Marsch because it's just so obvious at this point.
I also don't think he's going to leave Leeds. Like I think he loves where he's at Leeds, so it's going to be hard to pull him. Maybe by the World Cup, but yeah.
Yeah, I bet like Jesse Marsch has just been like the one person who's been associated with U.S. soccer as like their next coach for like forever. So
yeah, and I was
but I
Jesse Marsch. I think that it's a bit overhyped. Like he's yet to prove that much for me. Like he won the Austrian league with Red Bull Salzburg twice.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how big of an accomplishment that is.
Yeah, he had a good Champions League run with Erling Haaland.
And by good, they didn't make it out of the group stage. And I think
they just beat.
Didn't they the year after he left? They made it out of the group stage, I think.
Yeah, no, I think. Yeah. I mean, he didn't do a great job at Leipzig, although from what it sounds like, that was kind of doomed from the start.
Yeah. And I think he's doing a really good job at Leeds.
Very chaotic, but
it's definitely
good time.
I mean, defensively they're kind of a mess, but I do think he's doing a good job at Leeds. The players really seem to buy into him and buy into his system. But yeah, I think there's the bit of like a savior complex amongst U.S. soccer fans where it's like, if only we hired Jesse Marsch, everything will be perfect. The stars will all align, and we're going to be able to win the next World Cup. I just don't see it. Yeah. I've yet to be convinced.
Yeah, if only we hired Brian Schmetzer. Let me tell you.
I like it. I don't think it's crazy at all, but I think it would piss.
I'm not saying. I mean, there's definitely some crazier wild card picks, but in the terms of like pissing off, like he does in a sense have. And he has a better resume than Gregg Berhalter ever did. He had a better resume. I mean, I don't know.
Champions League and multiple MLS Cups.
Yeah, he already had a better resume when they hired Gregg Berhalter.
He probably has the best resume of any American soccer coach in the world.
Yeah,
currently.
But I think
he's a better resume than Jesse Marsch as far as winning.
Yeah. I think people will not be happy with another MLS coach. I also think like there's an interesting report where somebody said like it was a weird report where it was like according to our insiders, like the players might not take Gregg Berhalter seriously once they get deeper into their European careers. And it's like, well, but they do now. They take him seriously now. But like these insiders are saying they might not. So it's like they're speculating on I don't know, which is an interesting thing.
Well, but Christian Pulisic just played 2 Champions League finals. Then his ego will make him not respect him.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Anyways.
All right. Well, I guess all there is to do now is to move on to our final segment. That story was bad. Will, you have not seen our story yet this week for that story was bad.
I had story. Hope
What?
it's not the Marjorie Taylor Greene story from today.
It's not the Marjorie Taylor Greene story. No, this has something to do with soccer. Um, this has nothing to do with football, Will. This has everything to do with soccer.
Okay,
Um,
I'm intrigued.
and this is not a piece of reporting. Like last time, this is an editorial. An editorial is an opinion piece. And we're going to share it right now. Here we are. Here we are, Will. Here we are. Can you see it?
No.
All right.
Now it's up. Okay.
This is from a couple. This is from yesterday morning. This is an opinion piece from NewJersey.com, True Jersey, and it's by a man named Paul Mulshine.
Okay. I was wondering.
He's an opinion
why
writer.
I said Mulshine next to it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a big name in New Jersey, I guess. Any New Jerseyans can attest, I suppose.
Are you being sarcastic?
Americans.
Are you making that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know who this man is before this. But this is a man who gets paid to write about his opinions.
Yeah.
Americans still aren't getting their kicks from soccer.
Clever title.
The Rockettes, at least they're kicking. At least when they're kicking, the result is aesthetically pleasing. Yeah. Our long national nightmare is over. I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about the World Cup soccer tournament. For a little while there was the news was filled with reports that the American team was advancing in the World Cup. That meant our TV screens showed endless replays of those rare moments when something actually happened in a soccer game.
I like the beginning. It's just so like passive aggressive. Just even the World Cup soccer tournament.
The World Cup soccer tournament. Our national nightmare is over.
Just say the World Cup.
America has lost.
The World Cup.
The World Cup is still going on, by the way. It takes 10 seconds. The rest of the game
is over.
Yeah. All right. Of course, we have more tropes about flopping, which definitely doesn't happen in any American sports. It never happens in, I don't know, basketball, for instance. So we have, as it happens, I get to see a lot of this. My one son-in-law is from South Africa, the other is from Ireland. Whenever they come by the house, the TV is tuned to what it's in here. It's called The Beautiful Game. I fail to see what is beautiful about all that kicking. I'll grant there's a certain aesthetic appeal to watching the Rockettes kick in the Radio City Christmas show. But when two grown men try to kick the same little ball, the result has all the grace of a road rage encounter. I don't know why we have more things about the Aaron Judge contract talks. I thought that was over. This is what NJ.com usually reports about, is like just Aaron Judge. And what's the Mike White, and who's that other guy? I don't know. Daniel whatever.
Jones.
They should probably, as you can tell, they should probably stick to that.
They don't seem very passionate about soccer.
Yeah, they do not. It didn't have to be, by the way. I recently got to poking around my alma mater. Of course, this guy went to Rutgers. So it played in a chain of events that rescued us from the Europeans. So he goes into this whole thing by talking about the creation of Australian rules, football. The use of hands makes for a lively game. Use of hands. That's what makes good sports. The use of hands. But if you use later the English codified a version in which the players didn't use the most useful part of the human anatomy, they called it soccer.
I can think of things.
Which derived from...
I can definitely I think the brain's more useful than your hands. I think the heart's more useful.
You could get a lot of weird sexual innuendos too from the use of hands makes for a lively game. Very strange sentence to write in any. Sorry for my ads. I do work in the wine business. all the wine ads. I don't know what any of those wines are. So blah 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 blah. Here in America, the first college. So he talks about Rutgers, Princeton, whatever. But our form of football evolved to include more elements of rugby. That's a higher scoring game, but most efforts hits the ball and ended up with a pile up on the ground. So then, okay, he's talking about how wonderful football is and how great it is that we created football. Now football was
the beautiful game of football. Just 11 guys just like running at each other, trying to like push each other.
Oh, don't! It gets better. It gets better. Now football was the ideal spectator sport. It got even better when TV came along. There's enough time after each play to dissect the prior play in exquisite detail. So one of his reasons for why football, and I'm a baseball fan, but still, one of his reasons for baseball stops as well. But one of his reasons for talking about why football is so great is that the play stops, and in that time, in the time between the plays, you can, in beautiful detail, dissect the previous play while the next play is being all formulated up. I just love that sentence. Because this obviously never happens.
Football is the ideal spectator sport because every live football game I've been to, my thought is always, when they throw the ball, it's pretty cool to watch. Anytime they run the ball, you have no idea where it goes. It's so hard. It's so hard to watch live. But
yeah, football is such the ideal spectator sport that when I watched football in college, they literally just had a band that played in between plays to entertain us with song. I also love the idea that's a 2-yard run. Now let's break that down. Does anyone want to perform a sonnet about that last 2-yard run that happened? It used to be 2nd and 6. Now it's 3rd and 4. Interesting. Meanwhile, soccer is just a blur of pointless thrashing that doesn't spare us the spectacle of soccer aficionados who write pieces informing us that this time around, soccer will, after all these decades, become a major sport in the U.S. Hate to break it to you, buddy, it already has. It happened about 10 years ago. I like how he's saying people have been saying for 30 years soccer's finally become big, but it hasn't happened. The World Cup comes around and then I forget about it because and just me, and then I go back to just thinking about Daniel Jones. That's his name, the Giants quarterback. And in Rutgers football, no, there's other people, a lot of other people, who have in those decades slowly but surely become fans more and more. Many of them that has happened because they watched a particular World Cup. But there's actually numbers to back up that I think football, American football, is the only sport with a shrinking fan base in America. I forget where this report came from, but I think it's an Antifa football video, and we can bring it up later. And if anybody makes it, baseball actually has a growing fan base. It's just not growing as fast as soccer and basketball and hockey. Yeah. But it actually does have a growing fan base. Interestingly enough. So, yeah, baseball, the sport that everyone has been talking about as the dying sport. Yeah. Football's declining now. It's on top, but it's the only sport that's actually declining. So that's pretty much it. He kind of goes into this whole thing about the New York Cosmos and how, in the 70s, the Cosmos was a big deal, obviously, with Pele. And I went to one game and there were 50,000 people. Each week, the Cosmos broke their attendance record. I asked Doherty why the crowd's dwindled since then before making a modest rise. you ever saw the NFL stadiums, the multiple NFL stadiums that have been filled?
I mean, also wasn't Pele on the New York Cosmos?
Pele was on the New York Cosmos.
I bet the attendance dwindled sometime around the time Pele left.
Yeah, this guy says maybe people got there and said this is boring. He said, yeah, it's probably because Pele left the Cosmos and because the NASL just kind of collapsed. But I don't know if this guy was has been paying attention to the fact that 12 years ago the Sounders sold out an NFL stadium. I went to a sold out NFL stadium for a Sounders Timbers game 8 years ago. That had 10,000 more people than this reported crowd. And obviously, Atlanta has done that. Charlotte now has done that. Nashville has done it. It's a stupid thing. Yet then also complains about the offsides rule.
Yeah, I was reading that. I mean, that's so incredibly dumb. Because first of all, yeah. I guess, in basketball, you can just camp out inside beneath the other basket. But in football, there's literally a penalty called offsides.
Yeah.
And now I guess that's for the defense. But, I mean, a false start,
a false is basically, he's complaining.
You just start your wide receiver down in the end zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's literally it's essentially the exact.
It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same
idea. In hockey too, same thing. You can't just have a guy sitting down by the. So that's incredibly dumb.
Yeah, incredibly dumb. Yeah, so he complains about how you get penalized. You get penalized, but in soccer you get penalized if you try to get the goal before the defender and do something interesting like actually score. Yeah, this is the same thing. You can make the argument that that they're trying to stop you from scoring in football because they don't let they don't let a wide receiver just hang out in the end zone.
Yeah.
I asked my brother Dennis, who is a lifelong basketball player, what he thinks of the World Cup. Interesting. You talk to your brother who only likes who is a basketball fan, what he thinks about soccer. I gave up on it when everyone was celebrating because the U.S. advanced on a 0-0 tie. First of all, they did not advance on a 0-0 tie. That brings to mind the old saying, a tie is like kissing your sister. That's strange and weird, and I've never heard that before.
I just don't quite get the analogy. Yeah. I mean, I guess I get where they're going.
It dates back to the 1940s and is credited to college football coaches. College football coaches, the ultimate authority on being good people and being morally good people.
Also, wasn't there a tie in the NFL 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, there's ties all the time in the NFL. I mean, maybe not as much as soccer. The college game added overtime rules to prevent ties. But tie games are not only accepted in soccer, they're celebrated. So that's it.
There are go up a little bit. Go up a little.
Yeah.
There are many advantages of allowing a soccer game to end in a tie, the site explains. I can think of one. At least it ends. This soccer clearly just hurt this guy in some way. He definitely like tried out for the Rutgers like team and got cut and was like, I just hate soccer for the rest of my life.
Yeah, this sounds like the dumb thing that like your dumb uncle says at Thanksgiving. Add to this, he goes into this thing about a punter for Rutgers. So a lot of Australian rules football players become college football punters because like they use their feet in Australian rules football, the sport that this man is championing. And I guess they just punt like. You know, it's like how like a goalkeeper can like a top goalkeeper can like make a 60-yard field goal without like thinking about it, like and like any like pro like Australian rules footballer could like be like an NFL quality punter. I guess that's the thing. Unlike most American punters, Korsak almost never punts into the end zone for a touchback. When the other punchers do, when other punchers do so, the ball is spotted at the 25-yard line, thus negating half the distance of the kick or more. Korsak pins the other team deep into their own territory. He also uses his mobility to avoid blocked punts. Another trick he brought up from down under. Good thing he didn't grow up in England. He wouldn't know how to catch the ball before kicking it.
Oh God!
So there we go. What a beautiful piece of.
I like that he was
reporting.
he really just went for it, and you could see it. Like
Yeah.
I like how aggressive he was. The fact that he wrote an article about soccer and made the picture, like the thumbnail or whatever, the Rockettes.
Yeah, he really went in.
But anyway,
I'm really happy to for this article. I'm really happy this article exists.
I think the good thing about that article is I don't think anybody's going to read that and be like, yeah, I don't like soccer anymore. So
yeah, it's clearly made for people like us who want to make fun of it, and for people who like, again, is like your Trump voting uncle who just really hates soccer. Not to get political, but I already
might not be fair to make that. But yeah, I know the answer.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's kind of made for people who like already hate soccer and want to like tired of the World Cup. Although that's not really even the case. Like I've had a lot of people like in my job be like just like Busch Light buying like rednecks being like, it's a big game today. Like it's Croatia and Brazil, and I'm like,
any excuse.
Wow,
Busch Light at like 9 a.m. Right?
Yeah. Like, yeah. So I don't know.
I love the World Cup because now I can get up and acceptably drink alcohol at 7 in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't think a lot of those guys need like an excuse. Need a reason. But yeah, hilariously bad article. It showed up in my Facebook feed this morning. I couldn't find an article all week. I was gonna like spend a while looking for one. Thankfully, the most beautifully terrible article fell into my hands, and I'm very happy about that. So yeah, that's very happy. I got on Facebook this morning and found this beautiful piece of reporting. Yeah, and I think we should probably end it on that. This has been a long one today. Good spicy Gio Reyna talks. Hopefully that it sounds like Gio is committed to the future with the U.S. Hopefully, we don't lose him.
I mean,
that's the one thing I'm afraid of. I mean, we can't lose him to another national team.
He can't switch teams.
Yeah, but he could just. I mean, players have gotten so pissed off with their national team that they've left.
Yeah, but it's generally a coach thing.
It's generally a coach. So
Gio Reyna is 20 years. He's 20 years old. Gregg Berhalter is not going to be the coach for the next 15 years. Like, we'll be fine.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
I mean, once that Inter Milan job becomes available,
Alrighty.
I think we can leave it on that. If you made it this far, sure you have. Yeah. Thank you. And yeah, we'll see you next time. We'll see you next time. A player gets almost kicked out of the U.S. national team, I suppose. Which will be another week's time. Exciting. All right. Have a good one.